Hey folks, for this Copernicus quick tip, I want to look at probably the most powerful node in Copernicus, and that is the blend node. Okay, so we're over in Cops. I'm going to put down a ramp, and just to make it a little more visually interesting, I'm just going to set this over to Hill, and maybe I will move this guy in and this guy in. Yeah, we'll go with something like that. I'm going to duplicate this guy. I'm going to turn it to vertical. We get that kind of shape there. I'd like to be able to control the width of this. So I'll put down a gamma. That will keep the white and black point the same. It will just affect the mid-tone of the range. Put my display over here. And as I put it down, yeah, there you go. Now we'll be able to make it wider or thinner. And let's do the same just down here. Cool. And now we're going to blend those guys together. We'll put down a blend. We'll plug our vertical guy into our background and our horizontal guy into the foreground. The first thing to note about the blend node is, like Nuke, it has a B-spine. And what that means is the background here, this guy, is the most important one. The foreground gets put over the background. That's referred to as A over B. The foreground goes over the background. And that's just something that you need to keep in mind. One way to easily check that is which one will fade away when I use the mask option. At the moment, we see this horizontal bar. So it's going over the background, and if I fade down, you'll start to see that this guy, the foreground, is fading away. And it's like the opacity is being pulled down. Foreground goes over background. So you need to pay attention to which one is in the foreground and which one is in the background. We've got lots of different blending modes, and you'll recognize some of them potentially from other compositing packages like Photoshop and After Effects. I don't really like the interface for it much, so we're going to change that. If I wanted to go to add at the moment, I have to click once, then scroll down here, then click again. That's 2 clicks. I'd prefer something a little bit more interactive where I can keep my eyes over here on the composite view rather than looking at the interface all the time. So let's go and update this. I'm going to click on a little cog here and I'm going to say Edit Parameter Interface. And what I want to do is add a slider. All of these values, even though they're names here, they're just numbers. They're integers underneath. Let's select integer and just move it over here. I'll just put it under mode here. I need to give it a name. The label is what the artist sees out here. Let's call it mode slider. This is what we would refer to if we're using expressions. Usually we do all lowercase. Here, I'm going to do camel case mode slider. There's 22 options. It starts at 0. That means our range will be from 0 to 21. And I will lock these. There's no point in going over them. And just make sure that my default is set to 0 here. It will be set to blend by default. We're just going to apply that. So that slider is created. Now, it's not connected to anything. Now, I'm going to change this over to blend here. Right click, say copy parameter. Right click, say paste relative reference. And then when we change this number, it changes the mode of operation. I can use the slider and I can very quickly step through. Now, how I actually use it is this. I click in beside the number 0 and I just use the scroll wheel. I'm just scrolling forward or back. I don't actually care all that much which value I end up on. I just want an interesting visual one over here. Now, sometimes it does matter which mode you're using and you've got to pay a little bit of attention to the compositing maths. But more often than not, I'm just eyeballing it, right? I want my eyes over here, not over here. Just click in and then I just use the scroll wheel and I can scroll forward and back and pick out the ones that are more visually interesting. Assuming you're happy with that, and I think it's a useful update, the last thing to do is to go and save that out. You could, in theory, use the recipe system, which they've just brought in, and you could save it as a preset with its own name. In my case, I actually wanted to just replace the default one that's there. So I'm going to use the legacy preset system. So I'll click the little cog here, come down to legacy preset. Just make sure, just before we do that, just make sure you put it back to blend, right? Because you want it to always start off on blend and then you can pick the other ones. Put it back to 0 first, then go to legacy presets, save as permanent default, and that will create a little config in your user folder so that the next time you go and put down a blend node, here, yeah, you can see we've got our little interface already set up. And maybe just to finish this off, we'll put down quantize maybe and lower this down a little bit so we get something a little bit chunkier, and then we can blur that off. Plug it into a preview material, and again the height is just way too high. Increase the blur a little bit, and now when we go back to this blend here, we can just very easily step through and get all these kind of interesting shapes. And again, it's just a little bit easier to use. So the blend node is the most used node when I'm creating my graphs. Hopefully you'll find that quick tip quite useful. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.